Uh, Welcome to the Naked Mothership. I'm Dhyan. We're broadcasting live from Jam Cafe in Bangkok. Our hosts are Michael Honeycomb and Earl. And tonight we have as guests Munk Voss, Indigenous MC, Indigenous Australian MC, producer, and breakdancer.
Badass.
Yeah. and general badass.
Yeah, man.
And Sar, who is an organiser of a writers group. He's a writer, a poet.
Visionary. Working on it. Till it all crashes, then I'll be. Pretty much.
The hero's arc.
Yeah.
Alright. What are you doing in Bangkok, Mark?
What am I doing in Bangkok? Man, I'm on my way. I'm actually on my way to the Southeast Asian Games
Ah,
that are in Manila.
Oh, yeah.
At this point in time, yeah. But I'm here doing a few gigs, catching up with some friends, shooting some videos, etc.
What are you doing in the Southeast Asian Games?
I'll be there doing a bit of breakdancing.
Oh, that's the new event.
Yeah, which is now a new
right.
event. This is now an Olympic event as well, which is like
Breakdance is an Olympic event.
yeah. So in next year's Tokyo Olympics, is it next year? Yeah, next year's Tokyo Olympics, breakdance is one of the breaking is one of the sports in the Olympics.
That's cool that Tokyo's kicking it off too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Totally makes it worth it, right?
Yeah, nice.
exactly. So as part of the Southeast Asian Games, they've added breakdancing into the as one of the categories, and I'll be there.
Yeah,
Check
I mean,
it.
like, if Korea has Taekwondo, then Japan has to have breakdance.
Yeah, well,
True.
that's true.
Do you know what?
That's
Do you know what Southeast Asian
Skateboarding and
countries have
baseball
teams
too.
for?
Baseball's back.
Yes, no, it's like yeah, they're well, in the games. Obviously, Philippines are there. Also, there's Thailand, Malaysia. I think they had the singles yesterday. I think it was they had like the single competition, and the young Malaysian fellow won it. So yeah, it's like there's a host of different countries that have teams, and there's big girls and big boys, and like single competition, team competition, etc., etc.
Is it like diving or figure skating where it's judged?
Yes, indeed. So for each event, there's 3 judges.
Are you competing?
I won't be competing.
You tell us a little bit about your like unique moves. So like I really want
If only we had more space up here.
yeah with some of your unique moves qualify for as an Olympic sport, like, what are the rules there? Like, I mean,
That is an interesting.
I feel like your particular style is very hardcore. Like to be clean Olympic, but no more about it.
Well, yeah, true. But with that said, yeah, I've been lucky enough in my career to have invented a move, which is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
In the way that some of my American counterparts over there in the US and around the place have like, said, oh, that's your signature move, man.
Yeah.
So how I did it, all right?
Yeah.
Should we get into that story?
Yeah, sure. Just like whoa, man.
So my ex-partner, she was like into yoga. So what we've done with that is she said, well, yeah, I mean, there's this yoga move where you lay on your back or lay on your shoulder blades, and then you get your legs and you throw them over your head. And you walk 2 steps and you walk back, and you walk 2 steps the other way and you walk back. And that's the actual yoga move that they do. But I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I started like going 2 steps, and I thought, oh, I can go a 3rd step, a 4th step, a 5th step. Oh, wait a second, I can go all the way around my body like a human clock.
Whoa.
And then I just thought, oh man, I don't really want to do the yoga anymore, but I'll throw that move into my breaking routines,
Oh damn.
which then were like became a part of like my act. And then I thought, oh man, especially doing like stuff with kids in schools and things like that, and man, the best way to even do that move is you grab a kid from the crowd and you get him to run around you, around you, and you chase him with your legs.
Whoa.
much more entertaining anyway.
Yeah, you gotta post a clip or something, so people can see what you're going on. You have
Like pictured.
the visualize. We have not enough space in here to do that right now.
I'm just like, I'm just that guy that runs around himself, runs circles around himself and stuff.
It's very metaphorical too, I'd say.
Well, yeah. So anyway, so that's so just to even have a move that not that many people can do is like pretty good. But these days, these kids are doing amazing stuff. Even like the young female lead girls are like, they're doing like moves that you wouldn't even think of back in the 80s. I started breaking in 1982, which is a while ago now. Half your listeners wouldn't have been born yet.
Yeah, that's before I was born.
There you go.
That's where I was born, man. Jeez, you know.
So yeah, so 82 I started doing the breaking, and then got into the graph scene and the rapping by about 84, 85, 86. And the rest is history.
So I mean, like you've been moving around, right? So like how is it back in where you're from? It's in Australia, right?
Yep, Sydney, Australia.
Like you're traveling around the world, so like how is the scene all over the place? Like it's become such a big thing that I think every place has its own like legacy, history. So more about Sydney, Australian hip hop scene back in the day, because I wouldn't be have that knowledge, and I think not many people know about it. Not very well documented or anything. So
true. Well, here's one for you. Go on. This is all too much. Too much on focusing on myself. But if we go into like the history of Philippines hip hop, which I've been traveling to Bangkok and in the Philippines for a good 10 years now, and made some really good connections with a lot of the crews in both countries. But the Philippines hip hop scene started in 1978. So even we go because the American bases were there,
right,
and they so they had that sort of thing happening. But here's another little known fact that even a lot of my US counterparts are always like, whoa, are you for real, man? And then I show them and they go, wow. So what happened is Rapper's Delight was the first hip hop track that was a recorded version of a hip hop song with the rapping in it. A month after that came out, a Filipino version came out. So pretty much before the next American hip hop.
In Tagalog?
Yeah, in Tagalog.
Oh wow! In the native language too.
Yeah.
How do you think it spread across? How do you think it traveled so quickly?
How did it travel so quickly? That would have been like I said, the American Air Force or American military bases were basically in around Angeles City, which was where it kind of kicked off, and a lot of the early, even the disco groups come from on that west coast in Olongapo and all that sort of stuff back in the early 70s. So they had African American guys that were in the bands with the Filipinos and other American fellas that were there. Yeah, I mean that were living there, that were living in those areas. So that it just moved from the disco into the hip hop, which
that's a progression.
Interesting, right?
If you
take
the
especially Rapper's Delight.
if you take the instance of Apple the App from Black Eyed Peas, who's over there at the moment. He was in Australia a month ago or so. He's over there now doing. I think he's done the opening for the games the other day. But with him, he come from Angeles City, and he used to get the jeepney. So there's these old jeeps that they use as public transport. It's kind of like a what would you call it?
Songtown.
Yeah. More like a Songtown. Yeah. To a truck, converted truck, basically.
Yeah.
They converted truck,
Yeah. So he'd get the jeepney to get to school into Angeles City from out near the airport base at Clark, and he'd see a bunch of guys breaking and jump off and not go to school.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of
and hang out with
subculture, right?
And hang out with them breakers. Yeah, hang out with the breakers, and that's how Apple the App got his what would you call it? His foot into the hip hop scene, which went then when the volcano erupted. There was a volcano eruption that caused the American military to abandon ship, basically.
Oh.
And instantly get out of that area. Yeah, when his family went with them, and the rest is history. He met will.i.am and etc. and
Wow.
that's how Black Eyed Peas formed.
Sometimes certain disasters make you make books and stuff. Sometimes especially when I read books and things, those coincidences in life really do make up a bigger whole of things. So
yeah,
could definitely see it as fated.
Yeah, it's true. So it's just like an interesting story that not that many people know, which is it's like it's good when you do tell people and they're like, oh wow, man, that's like super interesting that especially like people think that like Japan was very up on the whole hip hop scene and breaking, but they weren't really up on it until about 81, 82 ish. So people think that where Japan would be like the main Asian country that like would have been first on this onto the like hip hop's global scope of things, but no, Philippines was there like much earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, when you think about history, like, with the American bases there, and also I think that there's just a lot of these little things in like Asia, especially Southeast Asia, that are not really explored because, people don't talk a lot about it, it's only starting to become more popular now with the internet and everything, like they, go into these little subcultures of people doing this, doing that, like there's like a whole art scene here in Bangkok too, that's slowly coming up, and I think that
which of course you're part of.
I'm working at the very end of it, right, with the literary things. People say basically, there's a very famous quote like, "Playwright's a failed poet."
Yeah.
And a failed poet is a writer. So and we're all the other end of the scheme. So it's got up and coming, and also I think that there's a great thing about being in a subculture of artists in this area of the world where it's really a ferment, and because it used to be where you have to, when as a writer, you have to get published, or you have to try to adapt your art to be able to get media attention. Nowadays, when we have the internet and we have all these things, we can actually go out there and just invite people to be part of the scene or part of the culture, no matter where they are.
Self-publish and archive without necessarily needing the lens.
Yeah, the gatekeepers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this can only be a good thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Get the gatekeepers out of the
it's not even a freak flag. It's like a multicultural freak flag that's going all around. It's almost like a big ouch.
Tell us a bit about your writing group that you have.
Okay, so I have this thing called the Bangkok Night Owl Society, and it's really started out as my own commitment to actually get some writing done, because I've been wanting to write for so long, and one of the big things that every writer that's trying to teach other writers says is you need consistency. You need to pick a day, let's say, or pick a time to write. And one of the big problems, besides, let's say, alcoholism, that writers have and notoriously for, is like just feeling epic amounts of loneliness when you write. So for me, I just thought, well, let's combine some alcoholism and going out and talking to people, or just even sitting there. You don't have to drink to come to my group, honestly. I would say I'm the drunkest person there, but
the point being one or the other.
One or the other, right? Like, you gotta be the stereotypical lonely writer sitting there, at home, like crumbling pieces and throwing it into your perfect mild wire mesh.
3 points.
Exactly, right? Like, I'm gonna do a layup, like that. But you have other people around you that you can share with, sharing the struggle. That for me is the beauty of the group, and I started this years ago where these 24-hour cafes were just popping up in Bangkok, and I like to stay late. There's not that many people, but if there are people who are like, okay, man, I'm serious, we're gonna do it tonight, and I'm like, okay, great. Either I'm gonna go to work, you know, as much as I can, or I'm just going to cancel classes. I'm going to sit there and write and I get this done. Because sometimes, you know, the muse is cruel. The muse says, "You want to sleep? Well, I got a story for you." I'm going to start whispering in your ear until you can't stand it. And it's like, it's so good, and I'm drunk, and it's so good. So then I got to keep writing. So for me, it's a way to meet other artists, meet other writers, and it's open to like poets, writers, like memoirists, every kind of thing. And I usually do it every Tuesday, or actually Monday, Tuesday. But you know, Bangkok is such a city where you can be a part of anything. So like for example, like just before I came here.
Where's that at?
Oh, it's at the usually do at the Royal Oak. It's on Sukhumvit 33/1. There's a comedy club and there's also live drawing there. It's a really great place for the arts actually.
How would people find this if they wanted to find this?
You can find it on meetup.com and you can also find it on Facebook. Just look up Bangkok Night Owl Society. And we usually do a prompt night. There's like a speed writing challenge. And I'm hoping to incorporate more things, like maybe, like just like including other types of like a yearly a focused night on just fiction, memoir, screenwriting. You know, we've had some screenwriters come by, and I feel like that's one of the populations that are definitely not like underserved. And I think that it's just one of those nights where for me I always tell people like creativity is hard, and I think when we do all the other poetry things, we always say we want to be a community here, but you know, creativity is hard. It's not just like you pick up a pen and do something. You need, like, especially when the muse is not there, let's say.
And it requires a lot of collaboration too, especially like there's lots of cinematographers in Thailand too that I'm sure are hitting their head against a wall thinking of a screenplay.
Yeah.
And that it's inherently a shared process.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's one of the beauties of working actually in film, because I helped a friend to make a film a long time ago after I got out of college, and it's a really collaborative process. And I think for the individual writer, it could feel very lonely when you're writing there, especially, you know, you're there at night in your room, and that's what I get a lot of people tell me, like, I love people who love the nights are like, oh yeah, I could sit there in my room, look at try to write something, feel dismotivated, and then spend the rest of the night on social media doing something, looking at cat videos, or like, you know, say happy birthday to everybody on my, you know, 900 list of friends that I haven't met, and finding out what they're doing with their lives and liking their baby pictures. Or you could actually be there trying to write, and even if you don't succeed, that's where the craft comes in my opinion. That's where you learn the best lessons about your particular craft, is when it doesn't work, when the muse is not there. What are you going to do? That's when you really need community and craft. If you're inspired and the writing is flowing, then yeah, you don't need other people around.
I feel the same way with music sometimes as well, though. Like, there's days where I just like love to be at home alone, just like in the music, just like doing what I want, feeling it. And there's like other days where I like really want to share it with somebody, and I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I had roommates or something, or like maybe like an artist space or something to like share like ideas with, and like get some energy from other people as well, because you spend enough time alone and it starts to like feel isolating and cold, and I feel the same way with music.
Yeah, and you know what? I would say that one of the things that almost everybody says, if they've even written a little bit, and then they share it. And the thing is, nobody's forced to share, but I encourage people to. And they always say, "Oh man, well, great." You know, like, wow, I they always preface it with, "Oh man, this is horrible." But after they read it out, and the other thing is, you're your own biggest critic, right? And we all like think about it, and we're like, you know, and we're not gonna criticize. We're all like artists. We're all like, we all have tried to build something here. We're not like nobody in the group is somebody who just sat there and did nothing. They understand the struggles. They had to actually sit there and try to create themselves. So nobody is a super hard critic, because, you know, today, what did I do, right? Like, you know, that's what I like about the inbuilt feedback that gets, is that everybody already understands that, man, you know, creating that thing, this is the first draft. And these are the good points. For me, universally, in the almost 3 years I've been running this group, not had anybody give like bad negative criticism, but always constructive criticism. It's not even like something I have to say. Let's say like when you go to a critique group, and I do run a critique group. I don't run, but like I'm one of the moderators for a critique group that we meet every 2 weeks as well. It's called Keybangers Bangkok, and it's on Meetup. Really good group. The 3 people there published self-published last year. So we do like consistent critique every 2 weeks here in Bangkok. But one thing to preface there is like, okay, like this is constructive feedback, guys. Just like try to give people constructive feedback, not just like this is what I think it should be, blah blah. In like my group, when everybody has to be in the seat of being a writer, of a creator that night, it's already inbuilt to say like, of course, you want constructive feedback. I've tried doing this. This is not like skating in the park. It's like skating backwards with your eyes blind sometimes, right? You're gonna fall. It's not gonna be good. It's fine. It's fine. But these are the gems, and to have a couple of gems one night, it's really, that's all you can really ask for sometimes. Especially when the muse is not with you, and that's the big thing. The idea of the muse speaks to all artists because we all want to be there, but we're hardly ever there. And when we are, like
the flash, the eureka moment, the finding goal, but also just that it's that the criticism aspect, that it's implied, that the empathy is involved, that we've all been, that we change each other's, that we are in each other's shoes.
Yeah, exactly. We're
swapping here.
Yeah, we're actually literally swapping, And what I like about having like many people there, from different, let's say, literary arts, poetry, fiction writing, non-fiction writing, even some bloggers come by. You get all these perspectives from how to, let's say, some people working on this particular aspect, right? Like, how does my writing sound? Because many fiction writers or non-fiction writers, they just go, this is how it is because that's how it happened. But there's a musicality to language, which is something that, I don't particularly consider myself a poet, but I know a lot of poets, and that's what they always tell me. It's like, okay, this part was really good, but I think about it. And so I work at it because writing touches people on more levels than even the creator, I feel, understands. It's true. Once you share it to the world, then
the truth to the lyrics.
Yeah. Then it bounces. I never thought about it this way. Like, oh, great. Or how it connects, right? This is I think an aspect that you don't get when you're in the creator's chair. Is if you truly, I feel like if you're constantly thinking about what other people are thinking, then you don't. You freeze, you choke, basically. People talk about that in performance, right? But you can easily choke on a live writing night or a live painting night.
And I'm curious how this contrasts to breaking. That if there are times when you're workshopping anything and it's not coming, or is it different because it's that it feels free flow, that it's
I'm gonna be honest.
So you're physical.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever rehearsed. Don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever rehearsed. I don't think I've ever warmed up or anything like that. I just get in and I come from that era of getting into hip hop where you just do it. And these days, b-boys are b-boys that warm up and they do their thing. And one thing that back in the 80s, especially coming from being an 80s kid, is that being across many different elements of hip hop as well. So yeah, I've been rapping for 33 years, 34 years. Been breaking for longer, for nearly 40 years. So and doing the graph, and that got me into doing. People always ask me, man, how come your handwriting is so neat? Yeah, you're right. Like your handwriting is so very neat.
Yeah.
But that comes from the like thing. I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't do the graph stuff.
Sure.
So it's like that's a thing of that where. But now these days, graph artists are graph artists, and they don't really venture into.
Yeah, there's a specialization,
Yeah, that's
right?
it. Yeah, it's all very specialized. B-boys don't really rap. You know what I mean? They just like do their breaking moves, and they just specialize in doing that. And even within that, there's a whole heap of other, what would you call it, specialized areas with popping and locking and you know what I mean, and the floor. Yeah, I mean, doing the stuff on the floor and things like that. The power moves.
I like to see how serious people are about it now, though. There's like a lot of people now that are actually going to school, like studying dance full time, but their specialty is still like popping, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. People are getting so intense.
Yeah, so, but yeah, and they are. They're intense and serious because they're basically, what would you call it, fixed on that part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Where I don't claim to be like the best in any part of the culture. I just like practice hip hop culture as hip hop culture as the way that you know what I mean. I do a bit of DJing, do a bit of you know what I mean, all the elements.
I wonder if that's similar to like jazz, where it would come from people just hanging out after hours with their instruments and just
jamming,
throwing in what sounds good, but
Yeah.
then it becomes really specialized the more
Well,
it becomes there's a glory aspect to it, right? A fame aspect. Do you think that
yes and no. I think
that
it's
as it
more
becomes
more of a
specialized, that
community.
there's more to like dig into, that you can develop more and more as like it's invented at some time.
Yeah, but with that said, you know, and if I didn't like get into hip hop, I probably wouldn't have got to A, travel the world, but B, also do things in my home country as well. Travel around Australia and like especially inspire young kids, especially Indigenous kids, as well. That live in
Massive opportunity involved.
and inspire people to like do stuff, but also as a like thing. So my main thing that I've done in like especially over the last 15 years is a music producer. In recording studios, producing not just hip hop, but bands, and like I've done everything from opera, death metal.
Wow.
And none of that would have came about if I didn't start breaking.
Yeah.
When people ask, "Oh man, how'd you get into like producing this punk band, man?" And I'm like, "Oh, gets back to me, like spinning around on my back, man, like breaking." And they're like, "Wait a second, man, how does that happen, man? I go to audio engineering school and I do this and that." And they go, "How do you?"
I think this is the beautiful aspect of I guess seeing your art as a journey. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, your particular thing is you're in. You know, I have. I meet so many people in the writer community and even the reader community because they're connected. For me, I feel like it's a natural transition. We're all readers before we're writers. I feel like. Then some people get more into that than others, right? But the big thing is I find so many people now are like, oh, I'm a fantasy writer. I'm like a mystery writer. They just trap themselves into
Specialized.
Yeah, specialize. And then it's almost like
type thing.
Yeah, genre, and then they refuse to read anything else. Literary people only read literary stuff. They refuse to read like comic books or like graphic novels. They refuse to read things that branch out here and there. So it's I feel like if you treat your, let's say, your craft as a journey and whatever you happen to like as the end, then when you're in, right?
Sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. That's how it goes. And I wanted to invite more of other guests here to talk because I know Dhyan here is the proprietor of Jam, and there's lots and lots of creative acts going on here. And maybe you could talk about what's coming up.
Not just that. There's like art.
Art,
he's got this, and giving spaces for artists to be able to like.
And even this podcast, right?
The podcast. And it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be on the first podcast to like.
Exactly.
Roll out here.
There you go.
So you gotta put him on the spot.
All right, cool.
You gotta give him.
You're gonna hit it.
Question back. Do you have any questions for Dhyan?
So Dhyan, here's the thing: is when we all kind of came here and go, okay, we're gonna do this is a podcast. So like, what's your inspiration for doing this podcast? And kind of like existentially, why are we all here?
The existential
question has been dropped.
Yeah, I guess when having a bar, I kind of figured out I used to really enjoy drinking, but I don't drink anymore. So I guess like I really like just talking to people and having like conversations, find out what's going on, and I think for me that's like the most pleasurable part of it. I mean, also probably listening to music, but I think like it's really just the conversations, and also like I guess I'm interested in like what we are doing here, like what's the meaning of it, and like you can share something with me, I can share something with you, we can like maybe we can figure it out together. Yeah, I guess it's something like that, I suppose.
I think at the other end, like as an owner of a bar and having customers like me who stay till the very end of the night, absolutely drunk, you get asked a lot of existential questions. Right? So like it just comes with a territory. It's true though. That's when you get at a point where you really start asking questions of why you're here, why you're doing things, and a lot of times it's actually useful, in my opinion. That's one of the, I wouldn't say it's one of the primary reasons people drink, but it's one of the occupational hazards or side benefits of it as well, is that you get
you'd strip people down.
Yeah. You strip yourself down to your ugly soul, where you're like, I need the bathroom, or I need another drink. Maybe
on your knees.
On your knees. Yeah, it's true. There's a porcelain god right there, and you're like, I'm not giving up. Right? There's a fight to it, to every kind of making, whether it's the making of you, the making of art, and also. There's also a way to connect, I could be doing this at home, right? I could be doing this, and then the only people that know that I'm going to be like, that I could do it would be me and myself, but I'm out there, I have to like maintain some sort of civility about my drinking.
And I find that when I'm alone, there's a certain freeing aspect to it that you don't have to, a lot of the drinking aspect is losing your anxiety, your nervousness. So when you work it out at home, you can work it out against the mirror. But the further out you go, it's a very common issue in a difficulty with public speaking. So sharing ideas, like when you're out in any social area, not just here in beautiful Jam out by Surasak. Surasak BTS.
Right, right there. It is great,
Saturn.
Yeah, it is great just to have, a sounding board, like to especially when you're at a point where you're confused. Let's put it this way, right? One thing that I constantly get is that if you're there alone, you're just not being social and you're drinking, you get confused, right? It's like, man, is this really an internal voice? Is this
echo chamber?
Or is this an internal voice? Is this like angels talking to me? Is this just by me being drunk? Is this just like writing on the wall? I don't know, but at the same time, I feel that being responsible about your drinking is important, but also forcing yourself to be social, because let's say we live in Bangkok. Okay, Bangkok, in my opinion, could be one of the loneliest cities if you make it. It also could be one of the most sociable cities you could be in. I constantly go out and meet people randomly and get involved in
I'm with you on that.
fascinating things. This is the city to get in trouble. It's well documented. It's the best place to get into all kinds of trouble, and trouble is, let's say, trouble is entropy that builds all the things that could possibly come and make it fascinating. So, for example, right, I would say one of the main things that I have as a thing in my writing group is people go, oh man, I'm out of ideas. I don't know what to write
The
about.
block.
The block, yeah, the
what
legendary
they call it.
writer's block,
Yeah.
right? So how do you deal with that? You know, I want to ask people. So I ask people questions. What did you do today? What did you do? Oh, I did this, and you know, I usually do this. It becomes like a laundry list of things that people usually do, but you
Then
never
it becomes rote and routine, but the more you think about like
yeah,
what you actually do and what, like how you change it up, or that every action you have can be its own tiny story, that there's
Yeah.
conflicts and obstacles in your way. And of course it can seem incredibly routine when you feel like you're in the grooves of where you've been already.
yeah,
So going out helps.
yeah.
But also just the world changes whether or not you want it to or not. That even if you're in a secluded sort of hermitage, like there'll always be an obstacle that will prevent you from being in your your Shangri-La, your Nirvana.
Yeah, and it is a really interesting exercise. You know, that one of the things I've really incorporate into writing groups. My writing group is like doing little exercises before we begin. It's like that's the thing is people. You know, when you first meet people, they ask you, "Okay, who are you? What do you do? Blah blah blah." And then it's, you know, because they're used to meeting people, they will start giving you those rote answers.
Right.
Like, oh,
Your
I
occupation.
do this, and I do this, and I'm like this. I have these political views. I take care of my kids. I love my dog. I never treat my dog this way. I don't treat my kids this way. So this is the things that they will do. But you know, people also love to complain. So I mean, it sounds like, okay, guys, let's like write down like the list of like the weirdest complaints you can have.
That's a
And like,
great
I love
exercise.
I love write lists of things basically. But one of my favorites is a list of complaints that you have that might be unique to you, like so specific, like, you know, man, you know, my coffee was hot, too hot, but it wasn't hot enough, and you know that guy got this like, or guy or girl, you know, got that like lawsuit from McDonald's to have that license, like, you know, of the heat in there. You should now, with current technology, have a complete temperature control on every cup. Say, this is at 92 degrees, man. Okay. I can take it. So like weird things that people have as a unique, let's say, complaint, right? That's what you just mentioned, is obstacle, and that's one of the main things you need as a storyteller. Is to realize you don't want to write about this character's routine life. You want to write about a moment that's an obstacle.
How it threw it all out of balance.
Exactly. That's
That they
essentially
had
the
this
inciting
all
incident.
set up.
Yeah.
You seem to like putting your characters under some sort of distress or not having things work out in like a happy way.
Yeah. I'm so curious about that.
I never know how to.
You know, I feel that if I get to make my characters more depressed than I am, that it's like
It can't be that bad.
I have to pay my therapist less, so you know, it's a little bit of like saving on my therapy bill, right? You know. But hey, like I know more about what you do. You know, I haven't been not doing as much.
I don't do much. I just hang out, I guess.
Same.
Yeah. What do I do?
We're both part of the furniture. We did the laser. We gotta. I'm not sure how that'll pick up on camera, but we gotta do a demonstration at some point. The oscilloscope.
The oscilloscope or the laser, which one? I think I do.
One feeds into the other, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like flowing in.
I
Like,
think
where's your entry point?
Usually I'm doing like too many, like more things than I should be doing at one time. Like maybe I have short attention span, so like 1 week I'm working on like visuals, like programming visuals in Java, and then like next week I'm like kind of like wary of it and I want to work on sound for a bit, so I just like go into that. And yeah, we worked on some stuff together, like coding, visuals for like live shows here, and an installation proposal recently with a laser. Yeah, I think I'm doing like, sometimes I think I'm doing too many things. Like I think like, oh, I should have more focus. Like that's how you get really far in one direction, is by putting your focus in one place.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm worried about that. Sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I'm like too scattered and I'll never get anywhere with any of this. But then over time I realize like what I think is actually happening is that, because I don't just like drop something and never go back to it. Generally, like a bit later I go back to this thing, and then I go back to this thing, and then I go back to this thing. And over time I think I'm like developing many skills, and they're starting to like kind of grow together as well. They're starting to merge now, like slowly. And I think
overlap and strengthen each other.
Yeah,
and
I think
at first they seemed a bit different, and now one
they're still like pretty like a bit apart.
ties into the mix.
I hope. I don't really know, but I hope in the end, like I can kind of combine all the things that I like to do into like one thing, and then I can like make it more, whatever.
Yeah. I actually, I actually really agree with that, because one of the big things, it's kind of a really, so my teacher called me very cavalier, or like also very like a contrarian in college. And one of the big things that I disliked about college was that they always kind of asked you, or forced you to specialize. But I just took what I always felt was interesting, and that has been like my approach throughout life. And it's interesting because recently I'm starting to try like online dating, so I had to put myself into anything. So my profile pic says right now, I'm a master of nothing. That's my profession. I'm a master of nothing, teacher of some, and let the universe decide the rest. That's the thing. And again, going back to like creative struggles, one of the big things that this kind of approach helps you with is, in general, you don't get blocked. You're kind of like, oh, this is the next thing. It flows instead of like blocked to your flow. You're flowing all the time, and that's I guess one of the things that I see in my writing groups is like, everybody, people get stuck. They're always like, well, why don't you get stuck? Because I don't know, my mind just goes to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I'm actually going to go volunteer build for Wonderfruit within the next week, and I like to do installation art and stuff as well. So this is it really is a collaborative thing, though. That's what's great about modern art, I feel, these days, especially when it comes to almost all aspects of modern art that I've encountered, whether it's hip hop, whether it's installation art, whether it's even writing these days, even the most one of the most let's say insular type of arts. There's just so much collaboration, and that's why I think that's what the biggest gift the internet has given to art itself is this collaborative nature.
Just on that point, I was just like, I just saw my brother like face to face for the first time in like over 10 years last night, but over like video chat, and my girlfriend was there like hanging out in the room, and then afterwards she was like, you guys didn't even like talk about what you do in life. You just started talking about programming like a music app together. We didn't have any like everyday and I was like, yeah, but isn't that what you want to do? Isn't that what you want to talk about? Like, and it's because the internet, that we can do that. We can have this like long distance collaboration at the drop of a hat. It's really cool.
Sure. This is the thing. Is like, you might not think it's collaboration, right? But for me, when I Google up something like, man, I don't know what to do, right? Like, especially when you're because I also do like a little bit of like programming and stuff, and I'm hoping to work more on that. So yeah, you need to ask, what do? You get into a form, right? You can ask a question, or you can see other people have asked questions before, and you follow a thread. And wow, somebody's gone there before you. You're not the first man on the moon trying to make steps, right? And it saves you a lot of time, but also especially with something like Quora, for example, or even these days, reward people for like having asked that first and save you time to get to the next point.
You can stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, or on this one, the shoulder of trolls.
Oh,
they're giants, technically, right?
Right, because they wouldn't be part of canon that the internet records more.
Yeah, man, appreciate your troll, just don't feed it.
Yeah. Mark, did you go to uni? Did you go to college?
That would be a no. I got my education from the train station.
Wow.
This is probably, which I've used this online before.
Please,
which,
elaborate.
But you were recently at UNSW, University of New South Wales in Sydney. That's my uni, you told me.
Yeah. So, I come from the thing. I went to school when I was a kid, but I didn't really go to school. I was more into not going to school, which led me to go to a place. I was telling this story last night about a place called Disco City, which was a record shop. It's the only place in Sydney where you could get import records, which is where I got my music education. In the way of going there, and
Which suburb did you grow up in?
So I grew up in Marrickville, Redfern, and Punchbowl. When I was a kid, the 3 areas I used to live in, which you guys would that would be over your heads, but
little inset on the map here.
but you would know quite well though. We're in inner city and southwest Sydney, which is probably not all them areas probably aren't known as especially back in the 80s as the best areas to grow up in. So so
same with Chiang Mai, the whole area.
Yeah. So with that background, probably thing I wasn't expected to do well at school or anything like that. So there was never that thing of going so. But when I did start breaking, my parents would more encourage me not to go to school.
Wow.
In the way of man, you're just I used to go busking down at the harbour.
Professional truant.
Yeah. So I'd go there busking down the harbour, and I'd be bringing him good money. My parents are mate, no need for you to go to school.
Yeah.
You can go down there.
This is your talent right there. This is what.
Yeah. Get in there and
doing breakdance.
Yeah, doing breaking. So I was, so before I was doing shows and that, I was going down and busking and things like that, and my parents fully encouraged. Things hey, here we go. This is here's a career path for you.
Wow, that's a amazing parents.
To the point where
one way
I had to convince them that I wanted to go to school.
Wow.
It's usually the other way around.
Right. You sure you're not just winging?
How old were you when you were
Oh, this is I was 13 years old, 14-year-old kid, and begging my parents. I'm not begging. I was demanding to my parents, I want to go to school.
Yeah.
Especially year 9 and year 10. I want to get I was behind everyone because I didn't really do much in the first wasn't there much, but year 9 and 10 I was I done alright. In the way of for someone that isn't really educated.
Yeah.
And even I've seen some people that were in my school a month ago or so, and you're the kid that used to break, the little kid that used to break dance in the hallways and stuff. And then funnily, coming from uneducated and never went to uni or any of that sort of stuff. From there, I started I started getting in a bit of trouble. You know what I mean? Getting in along the streets, getting in a bit of trouble, running around up the cross. Up in King's Cross, which is the red light area of Sydney. You know what I mean? Running around there, doing all these other bits and pieces, and getting myself in huge amounts of trouble. But with that, you know what I mean? But then when I got back into doing the music, there, that's people would know me. Especially running around the streets there, they'd be go, the rap kid from the cross. And it's
The rap kid from the cross.
The rap kid, man, the guy that he can rap, hey, go up to him and hey, get him to like spit a rhyme, and he'll like go on for however long. So, but with that said, that got me like gigs, like thing. Yeah, I mean, from there I got like proper gigs, and I got like, you know, which then led to a career of being like, as you say, you know what I mean. You guys probably thought that I've been to uni because I've like, you know, I mean, my vocab over the years is like, my thing was, there was a stage where I used to go to a library every day. Bankstown Library used to be my home. So I'd go there and I'd like read books, learn words, read books, read about things, especially like in like Aboriginal and history, which which is my grandmother's background. So learning about the cultural stuff, and as well as learning words, and I used to like rock in there and think, damn man, I could be a doctor. I could like just pick one of them books out that the doctors do when they go to uni and read it all, and I could know just as much as them. And that was my theory of like how to learn. So that was like thing. But then, as fast forward how many of the years, and yeah, man, done like so many things in life, and yeah, like I say, I met the teacher or the principal of the school that I actually went to and was spinning around, and he was just like, oh wow man, you need to come back and like come and like tell your story to the kids, and like mate, your band's up. He's like, you're now back to the school. He was joking, but you can see he wasn't there when I was there. Yeah, maybe that was like his big joke for the night. It was like, yeah, oh, your band's up, man. You can come back to the school and like do some stuff. But even with that, yeah, I mean, uni lectures as well. Like, I never would I think that, I mean, that I would be going into unis and lecturing to lecture halls of, and I've done that now for like five or six, even longer, more like years. Just like going and all these uni students are like super excited, and they've got like all these questions. They know more about my life than I do.
Wow.
Half the time, they got all these questions. I'm thinking, man, whoa, where's all this coming from? And usually those uni lectures just like fly. If it's a 1 hour, 2 hour one, it's just like goes from, and it's like you get to the end of it and you haven't even got through half the things that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh well, time's up. How you get? But yeah, I mean, but it's an honor and a privilege. Like I look at it as I'm blessed to be able to do that.
It sounds really interesting. Your last one about at UNSW about like using hip hop as a tool of dissent.
Well, yeah, I mean, done a couple of things on that in the way of like hip hop internationally is like something that is like turned into a political tool even. So you've got like, so you go back to the Arab Spring around 2011, 2012, and you had like in Tunisia, like the hip hop community, the ones that kicked up, like that were on the streets kicking off a revolution that went all the way through like North Africa and into the Middle East. So you go into Egypt, Egypt as well. That the hip hop community were spearheads of this sort of
This fruition, flower,
that thing to get the people, then having the backing of the people and the public to overthrow governments. So who would even think that, like as a hip hop as a culture, that could ever happen?
I mean, have you ever heard that in the parts of Africa now they have, especially in the French rap, like the whole TV stations that actually just rap the news instead of like, you know, the like 6 o'clock, this happened, it's all government, right? And now they actually sit there and explain world politics and everything to you in like in French like rap, like in national TVs. You know?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And even on the other side of it, so you get to somewhere like Turkmenistan, all right, which is a country where the Prime Minister has rap songs.
Wow, that's crazy cool.
I can't say he's the best like MC that I've come across, but the guy, he's got like an online presence, and he's got like hip hop tracks, and he's like, you know what I mean? And he's not like a really young guy either, you know what I mean? But he sees that as a way that he can talk to the population that is probably like a high amount of the population that are in their like mid-20s, 30s.
And what do you think makes like hip hop so inclusive? Because even out here, the people that I meet that are promoting and doing hip hop, they're just really like dividing, opening community, to people, and also like trying to grab people in, and it connects with people. Like, why do you think hip hop is able to say do that more than, let's say, more than something like fiction writing, classical music or fiction writing?
Yeah, I think it's just like a global phenomenon, and that's where, things have like evolved into. It's only a young culture in the way of music as well. So it's something that's it's been around for 50 odd years, but it's like, it's something that is like newish in form, especially in a lot of like other countries. But you go to Palestine, there's been a Palestinian hip hop community for such a long time now, and their hip hop is like, and even stories are there in Palestine where they're occupied by Israel, and you've got Israeli promoters that are smuggling Palestinian MCs into Israeli venues to do shows, and then smuggling them out again, and these shows are like sold out.
And that hip hop is so intertwined with language, and especially in Israel and the West Bank, that language difference, like it nearly defines the cultural divide.
Yeah, and with that said, they're getting these Palestinian MCs are getting smuggled into Israel, and the Israeli kids are the ones that are buying the tickets and coming along to the shows and selling them out and selling the shows out, which is like, which just shows the power of
But you never would imagine
that you wouldn't. Yeah, that you
think it's too deep seated to that animosity would wash it all away. But and you could go to basically any country on the planet and there'll be a hip hop scene.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? I find that to be really, really amazing. It's because I generally don't follow hip hop, but when I meet people and talk about it, they have so much passion and so much gaining wider and wider acceptance. Whereas I feel like when I'm in more like lyric community, it's more insular, but people are very passionate about it as well. It's just expressed in a very different way, and I don't know. For me, I've had problem like organizing, trying to get connected people. So like, do you have any interesting tips on how to like just make it have that, let's say, inclusive feeling?
Yeah, well, I suppose, and that's the other thing. All right, so obviously I'm here in Bangkok, and I'm in all these other countries and like doing bits and pieces and making connections with people, which is all part of it. But it's also, even producing music with other groups and things like that. You guys here have got like your own producers. You don't need me to come in. You don't need. I'm the last person that's needed to like come and like produce some stuff. But I suppose it's a thing of probably being a person that people want to connect with as well. Is another side of it, which is probably like nothing to do with anything else outside like of what you're doing or anything. If I was like an opera singer, and I was going out and meeting people, and I want to know what their story is, and I want to know.
You're just fun to work with. No matter what you do. Like.
Yeah, well, it's like, and you want to know. And I'm an inquisitive person.
Yeah.
By nature. I like to know what people are doing and what's going on in the world and what's happening with people, and and everyone's got a story. Hey, how many of 1 billion people are on this planet at this present time? Every single one of them person has like a super interesting story to tell about their life.
In terms of like connection and sharing level, that is like, do you guys share it on the internet or like on just like word by word? Do you like pass tapes to each other or like?
Well, exactly. Well, now with the internet, everything is so much closer. Like the world is such a closer place and such a you can talk to someone anywhere on the planet at any time, which is amazing. Who would have even thought 10, 15 years ago that you'd be doing that.
Yeah.
Phone
like-
cards.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
mate, I
right.
remember when I had the big Motorola brick.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking, mate, I'm rolling here.
Yeah. Couldn't
And
fit
then
in my
I can talk to
pocket.
people as I'm walking, man. How good is this? Where
Yeah.
now it's all on the phone. But with that said, you know what I mean. Getting out and meeting people is probably the and as you say, even if you're a introvert type person that doesn't go eventually you're gonna have there's something that you're gonna like, and you're gonna go out and you're gonna meet people that are like-minded, and and you're gonna have a conversation with them, and you're gonna make a bond with them people. You know what I mean? Then it's either up to you whether you use that bond into the future and stay friends and etc. But still, you're still gonna connect with people that are like-minded. You know what I mean? So basically, luckily because I break as well as doing the rapping and the other stuff. You know what I mean? It kind of broadens my little scope of people that I can that I connect with. Because then they're like, oh yeah, man, you're a b-boy. Yeah, you're like big. You know what I mean? Come to this jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I go to a jam, and then there's another 200 people that I meet
Exactly.
straight away, and it's who are instantly friends, become friends.
I mean, you can see, I mean, they really cross-pollinate when you're multidisciplinary, and that's incredible, to think about, because I feel the same way when you are able to wear many hats. Then you also connect many people through almost organically, rather than. You add me on Facebook, add me be another one of my nameless, my untouchable friends, let's say, and we talked earlier in the beginning about how things are becoming kind of really specialized now, and I think we should go back to the topic a little bit. Do you think specialization itself is, how, let's say good or bad, but to what extent do you think specialization is bad, and where is it really good? Help develop.
As you were saying, man, you know what I mean? It's so you jump from doing music to video stuff and things like that, which means that you're multi-dimensional in what you're doing, and you can cross into those sort of two different, what would you call it, communities that are doing that sort of stuff. And then as a third thing, a fan of whatever you're a fan of, just going out to watch music or whatever, or or that you could be getting into movies or something, you know what I mean, or building guitar pedals, whatever you're into as your little thing. You're always going to come across people that are that you're going to meet that are like-minded and like that sort of stuff. So it's probably a good thing to once again, it's up to each individual whether they follow through or not, but it's more you know what I mean? So to putting yourself even into one little specialist thing that you do, you're still gonna meet people that are like mine. Hey, maybe you're into Doctor Who.
Yeah.
All right, you're into Doctor Who, and that's what you're into. And there's millions of people around the world that you can connect with, whether it's online or whether you meet them face to face or at some sort of Doctor Who conference or something. You know what I mean? Just as an example. just that,
hey, we have Harry Potter
example.
conferences. We could have a Doctor Who conference.
Yeah.
So conventions.
So any of these conventions,
We
that
have
you're gonna
toilet conventions. Come on, they're huge. It's true.
But anyway, I just use Doctor Who as some random thing. But but even if you are that on, specified on one little genre or whatever that you're doing, there's still
it'll come naturally that it'll branch, and there's some comfort to knowing that you're picking someone's brain, that they're a leader in the field, that they do have a respected a respected viewpoint.
You have an expertise on it.
Right.
Because you're always learning. That's the next thing. It doesn't matter how old you are. Right? I'm learning on a daily basis, and I love learning on a daily basis. To me, they just feed me the knowledge, man. I just want to know more and more and more in life.
Yeah, with some anecdotal evidence, we all got here pretty late, and then it took us a while to work out the kinks in our sound systems.
The logistics of the podcast.
Took a while. Yeah.
It sure would have helped to have the doctorate in
Sound engineering or something, or
Yes,
sound
it's true.
physics.
But yeah, I mean, but with that said, yeah, I mean, so even like us together, yeah, I mean, it's like
we still work it out. Yeah.
we still work it out. But
Eventually.
but with that said, you know what I mean, we've all crossed paths. Whether it's the spirits have guided that path, or it's fate, or you believe it's fate, or it's luck, or whatever, we've still crossed paths, and you know what I mean, and that's always going to happen. You're always going to like cross paths with people wherever you go and whatever you do.
On reflection of what you said, I mean, in contrast to, let's say the writerly field, I would say something you mentioned there was like that hip hop is new and like it's coming in, and that's one of the big reasons people respond to it so much. And I think, and now that in reflection, I think maybe one of the big problems with writing, and the more like the arts that you read, is that there's so much baggage. Let's say, so much people like saying, "Oh, well, this is how you do it," right? If you're not doing it this way, you're not doing it right. And that's kind of the tone of the experts you meet. They always tell you, okay, you either do it this way, or you're not doing it right. This is why I think like self-publishing has opened so many doors, is because people don't have to go. The constant refrain that these gurus say is, oh, if you don't do it, you're not going to get published. Well, nowadays they're taking that step out, right? Like probably people in early hip hop had to go through the same way. It's like, oh, this is not music, right? And then who are you to define what music is?
Yeah, I can like go into that. Where even like so, yeah, I mean the origins. If we go back just to the origins of hip hop, comes from the '70s New York gang culture. Where if you've seen the movie The Warriors, which is like a famous New York gang movie, Warriors come out to play. That's the one. They are like thing. Yeah, I mean that is basically the genesis of hip hop is coming out of that, because at the end of that movie, there's the African American gang, which is loosely based on the Black Spades, who were Africa Bambaata's like crew at the time, who called a truce from all these killings and like and knifings in New York, and say, man, let's like get together and have jams and have parties and cool herc with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spin records, but spin records, and people, you know what I mean, with breakdance, it started like doing breaking battles instead of knife battles, you know what I mean, and people weren't getting killed, and that, you know what I mean, and that is like the genesis of the hip hop culture comes from that, like, man, we've had enough of like people like stabbing each other and bashing each other, basically, which is like, so even like that hip hop culture comes from a place of peace, really.
Wow, did not know that, and you probably wouldn't know that if you like grew up listening to something like gangster rap where it's all much.
Well, yeah,
that's many people's their introduction to rap, especially for me, has been more about that. So like I probably got the whole wrong impression. They're talking about something I have no clue about. But
it comes also from hardship, you know what I mean. So these people, you know what I mean, coming. See, and a lot of those guys that were in them gangs were all Vietnam veterans as well. So they come back from the like disenchantment
without a safety net. That some people were promised a GI Bill, and that didn't
so
happen.
then they just like make these gangs and just go around like fighting each other. You know what I mean? So it's like, and so yeah, and then there's a few like little docos that you can I don't know if they're even around. I've seen a couple of them at the movies and things like that. But there's one called Rubble Kings, which is like just it tells the story of a lot of those Vietnam vets that came back and like got into thing, and then they started like, all these like funk bands and all this sort of stuff, and got into the music and the street party scene, which was a catalyst for the hip hop culture. So yeah, so it does come from but then obviously after that, what it evolved into is more of people giving people a book, because it's very vocal in the way of like what you're telling stories, which is something that I like to do as well, especially like doing hip hop stuff. I love telling stories, man. Narrating a story is like, man, so much better than just like battling words. You know, and babbling words is like
Small talk,
it's like very average, man. To be able to like
To have a point.
to give a story and just say, oh man, check this like story out. And, oh wow, that was like a really cool story.
Yeah.
Is like big, and that's the narrative that I think that we gave a voice to. So when NWA does come along and they're straight out of Compton and they're like against the police and they're like into the killings and this and that, they're telling their story.
Yeah.
And is that a like thing? I mean, that's where censorship comes into it. Is it a good thing or a bad thing, or should they have the right to be able to tell their story? But where hip hop comes from, that's what it's about. It's having the right to like tell your story. And
Your own oral history.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Neighborhoods
Oral
oral
history.
history.
Yeah, and even like, and so it even came to Australia, yeah, I mean, and say like First Nations people in our country see it as a way as like a modern day corroboree, really,
Oh.
which is like a thing. So corroboree is like a dance, like songs and dances that have been handed down for 100,000 years or so. They're the same dances and the same stories that have been passed on and passed on. There's no written history of any of this stuff. It's all
Wow.
like it's all an oral history. It's like songs and dances that people learn and pass on to the next generation. But these days the kids see it as a way to tell their story,
Yeah.
and convey them stories as a modern version of it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, over the colonisation of like over the last couple of hundred years of Australia, a lot of that is lost by the government's policies of trying to like either assimilate or just use genocide to like get rid of people.
Yeah.
Same in America.
Yeah,
same
yeah,
in France, Same
yeah.
in Britain. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like but with that it gives like a group of people that have been enfranchised
Yeah.
a voice to be able to tell their story. And now I think that like just in the last like say couple of years, I think it's become the most important voice in Australian music now. And as we speak, the other day was the ARIA Awards, which is the main music awards, and they were like basically
Korea even. Yeah.
yeah,
K-pop.
basically
Run for your money.
it was basically people of color that were like that won like most of the awards at the ceremony, which probably 10, 15 years ago would never have happened. Which means there's a shift in like what people are listening to, but it's also people have interesting stories to tell. There's a lot of like say Sampa the Great, who is a migrant from Africa, who come to live in Australia, started doing like music, and is now like in New York doing like all these big things. Comes back and wins like big ARIA award for best artist. Yeah, I mean to come out of the country, but she's a refugee. She comes from a refugee like background, and these are the stories that people are wanting to hear, and this is where I think like hip hop and music in general, realistically, just gives people a voice to tell their story.
Yeah.
Just like writing, like with yourself and writing,
Yeah.
it's very similar. It's not too distant from what we're doing musically and like written.
I think that listening to what you're saying and also reflecting on how people even treat hip hop, even in Thailand, they have like big things that are going on with rapping, even on TV and on cable, like how it really is like the literature of contemporary times, right? Which is kind of odd to me, like to reflect on how that is. There's oral history and everything, but there was a period in history where writing was the rebel medium. Let's say was the history of modern times is writing.
Now it's Snapchat.
Yeah. Now it's whatever it is, right? Now it's like memes or whatever, and I think that's like what I mentioned, baggage. Like there's the issue of baggage, I guess, but also the fact that like the best-selling genres of the written mediums are all like escapist at this point. They're always been true, but even more so now, like that, the romance has always been the top selling genre. Then there's like, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, and the least best selling genre has always been generally literary fiction. Even though the people that
Even though there's prestige to the.
there's prestige, but then only people who want to be prestigious kind of want to read it. But the people who do read the literary works and then they truly appreciate it, that's the genre that I like to write in or work with. They always say, "Man, this book is so real," or "This book changed my life." And whenever they read a book, they really touch them, right? That's the main commentary. And I guess the same for hip hop songs and things like that. You know, it's just that I find it so weird that there's such a disconnect now that people don't read this particular genre, even though the people who have read it and love it go, "This is real." But all the best-selling books are all like essentially escapist. So it's just a very interesting reflection on this thing that's happened with writing, and I hope that in the future we'll have more people writing real things, let's say, and reading real things. Like they listen to, you know, they want the realness of hip hop or whatever genre of music they're listening for, right? I mean, yeah, it's cool, right? What do you guys think in terms of like modern entertainment? You know, how real is it? How you know, how much escapism is there versus like something that's actually, you know, contemporary? Because I struggle to try to write contemporary things, and essentially like it's not. It's really hard to try to find a voice to what's going on right now in a, let's say, in a literary way or in a way that people want to read about. I think like hip hop music, things like that, help it easier to us like actually say, look what's going on. And it's done more for that at this point than I think the literature really only like right now hits very few people. The sales numbers are so small, right? Hope one day that it's gonna be bigger, but how are we gonna make it that way? Make it more like this? Make it more like hip hop, or make it more contemporary? How are we gonna do it? Like I don't know.
I was going to just butt in there because it's funny you should say that because music doesn't sell a lot these days either. So, and the other thing is, get this one. You know, this is a podcast and people are watching the podcast. These days, people watch music.
Oh, right.
Listen, music is a thing that you listen to, but probably 90% of the people these days watch music, and even if they are listening to the music, they get it from watching them. I think, so say their Spotify playlists or whatever they're listening to music on, comes from people that they've watched on YouTube or something.
And MTV might be defunct, but it daisy chains right into that. The video is like the archived experience
even if it's
of
a lyric
the
video.
music.
Yeah, even these days there's lyric videos, you know what I mean? So,
and sometimes it can just be complete coincidence which lyric video becomes the most clicked on, the most popular. That it becomes like a canon. It's all like an odd sort of way.
Yeah, it's all very like. I mean, back in the old days, music was like run by major record labels, and they told the radio stations what to play and when to play it, and all that sort of stuff. Where then independent music came in and just like wiped that whole thing off the table, which is a good thing. I think it's a really good thing to be able to like. And then with technology, anyone can grab a laptop, plug a little microphone in, and make some beats, and like, hey. Put it up on iTunes or wherever, or online or on YouTube or something, and it's so accessible these days, which is like, to me that's a good thing. But writing has always been something that is accessible.
Yeah.
And personally, I still write like rhymes, like I write them. I don't like type them on a computer or a thing. I have like pieces of paper and like books, notebooks full of rhymes, which
flowing into rap.
And I don't think that I will ever like change that. You know what I mean? So I'll always like write my rhymes like in a written form, in a notebook with a pen and a piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean, as a person who works in education, I also think that's very important to do that. To teach kids how to write with their hands, because it helps memory, helps everything. It really is a lot. It's like a art that's being lost. Like the average student's handwriting these days is so bad. They can't even read them themselves.
And they get a bit of graph, mate.
I got lectures on that all the time. I got grades marked down for
if you can't read your own handwriting, right? If you're gonna graph it, right? Imagine doing graffiti. And you look at, was that an H?
That'll teach you how to like. Hey, doing graph will teach you how to like get your handwriting like.
Yeah, right. We should do that. A workshop in the graffiti just to teach kids how to write.
Kindergarten,
Yeah, exactly. A graffiti workshop in kindergarten, so that they go, look, they're fully engaged. Your handwriting for the rest of your life is going to be solved. Your handwriting is not going to be there.
And the kids want to write on the walls anyway.
Exactly, right? It's an instinct, right? I mean, go to any kid's home, like, well, there's already graffiti right there. Budding a graffiti artist, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, man. So but that's why I don't think that what we both do, or even all of us do, is too different from each other.
Yeah.
In the way of I mean, art is probably even from like owning a venue. I mean, and putting on art exhibitions.
Yeah.
To
so
doing
things
visuals and music and that sort of stuff. To doing writing.
Or just collaborating with other types of artists. You know, this is something I was highly encourage everybody in my groups to do. Sometimes it's the hardest pulling teeth to get people to like expand a little bit out of their repertoire that they're not comfortable with. And they're not comfortable with it, but
yeah, that's always the hardest.
It's always the hardest part. Yeah.
It's like a bit of a like being
the first step.
Yeah, right. The first step of like I do this, but I don't do this, or like some. Especially, I feel like in general, like I get a little bit of older crowd in my group. You know, I'm like usually the youngest guy in the writing group, and I'm like trying to run it, right? So
you're the one that's the inspiration. Yeah, the other one that should be inspiring these older fellas to like.
But here's the thing, right? It's probably true for like many people you meet. It's like older generation, like at least like, they don't even listen to music. So I mean, imagine me trying to convince this guy who doesn't listen to music, or at least like has listened to like what last time you listened to any new music was like what 80s. So like okay, and then not even like 80s hip hop, but before pre-hip hop music, let's say. And try to think, okay, you want to go to hip hop shows? Like what's that?
You thought disco music was just yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So like that's what I'm working with sometimes. Like how do I like try to reach out to these people, like say, okay, like there's something called hip hop, it actually exists. It's like what your kids listen to. Oh yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
What do you like on?
Shut down. Step one.
Yeah, right? But still, but they do writing, and they want to write their life. That's something I find that where writing is most connecting to older people is because they want to sit down and experience somehow, and this is the motivation that they have to get into it, and they want to put it into it. So.
And telling their story,
and
doing it their way, and doing it their way.
And doing it their way, and this is the way they know how to. So I think that's why there's been such a big explosion in nonfiction and memoir right now. And so that's what I'm working on studying more about and trying to be more encouraging of, because I tend to get an older crowd in my group, and totally welcome to come. I actually learn a lot from them about life and also about many things that has happened. Right, I think that's.
I mean, it's a great well to draw from. That someone's memoirs as a pool of an experience that temporally it's impossible for you to live that experience again. Time keeps going forward, but to know how that person, what that person lived through, and what it made them feel.
Yeah. And to I think I've worked more on like the last couple of years more on like helping encouraging people to write and being more of the editor role than being more writer role myself, and I find it to be super valuable because go back to on the other side. I think the new generation has also with the internet has so much arrogance. They're like, oh man. I knew that happened. I watched that World War II film. You know, that's how it happened.
Okay.
You know, like,
Yeah.
No,
Like,
but like,
dismissal
go
that
actually
might
talk-
not necessarily be. Yeah.
Go actually talk to the guy who was there. That he'll throw you a whole different story of what actually happened. And you're like, whoa, man, I didn't know. All I know was that, man, this guy rescued this person. It was epic. Like, there's guns fired. That's all I know. Like, oh, this
No, it
happened.
was nothing.
But like getting
It's
the
amazing.
getting the story from the people on the ground actually, or stories that people don't know about, like people that have experienced that part of history. That's been super valuable for me as a host, say, of like a writing group, And I also want to get back to what you mentioned with Dylan. What do you think has been the most valuable thing about running Jam and also getting so many hosts coming by? Having people coming by, sharing their art in this venue.
Not really. I don't know actually.
It's okay, man. We have to sit there and think, like these are important questions. Wouldn't be worth asking. It weren't.
You might be getting the hard ones here. It seems like yours are a little more existential.
It's getting to that time of the night, man. It's past midnight.
That's why we started at midnight.
Oh, we started at midnight.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm surprised that we've gotten as much. I see it like in the corner of my eye there that we seem to have gotten some feedback. We've been talking so much about the internet, but we haven't actually been. It does seem like people are watching us. We're not in like a little.
People popping in, popping out.
Wow.
Well, how good is that?
That's how good is that? On the first go, we already have people watching.
At 1 a.m.
At 1 a.m., right? You're out here on a Tuesday, Monday night. On a Monday night, you should be at home and dreading tomorrow. not to face the existential questions with all of us here.
So you were at the FCCT earlier tonight.
Yeah.
What was going on?
The Thyan is like the head of the Future Forward Party was just giving a lecture on local history. And
Fill us in.
Well, basically,
So I think that would be super interesting.
yeah, basically, the courts are deciding the future of his political career and also the Future Forward Party. But he basically gave a very optimistic tone and talked about what his party was about, like that he essentially he essentially talked about how there was giant division in Thailand back in the 70s, 60s, and it turned into basically outright fight against the military and communists, right?
Very close to
Until-
civil war. Very close.
Very close. And then they basically Prem gave them amnesty, and that's when they got back into the parliamentary process. But now there's been a divide where many people are disillusioned with the parliamentary process until the recent government's the election where there's now kind of an opposition party. But it doesn't. But even though, one of the big things was that even though there is an opposition party, it doesn't seem that the current government is really taking it seriously. So, are we heading to that place again? Because protests are coming. There's been announced, but they've been all set up online. They're not part of the setting it up. People really have genuine, genuine unrest. Basically, that's one of the big things that has been was talked about. Right? That's not being led by any individual party. It's just people are fed up, right? And they're organizing in their own way. And if parliamentary politics is not the answer, then what is the answer? Then if you're not allowing if you're not going to allow parliamentary politics to be the answer, right? Because of many things, right? What is going to be the answer? And that was a big question too. So I thought it was overall a really interesting one. I wanted to ask questions, but it was limited time, and wanted to give the journalists time to ask because they're working in a profession. But overall, I thought it was a very good talk, and I was glad to have been there and chat with other people. Like my university used to be right below the FCC, so I've been to many of their events, and I think that's one of the most one of the good places to go to pick up on politics and also just local news and international news about what's going on in the world. So kudos to them. It was really good night.
Yeah, and Tanaton's Future Forward Party, that they were, along with the Boom Jai Thai Party, that they're in this recent wave of...
Yeah. They're the newcomers almost, but they're not like newcomers to, like, let's say, living through Thai politics, but they're newcomers to being politicians. Many of them.
What's your thoughts there on Hong Kong?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Now we're getting into a little bit of politics now. Hong Kong is like...
And that daisy chains in a little bit.
And that was interesting because, you know, I remember people were asking about that selfie that happened, right? And one of the things I enjoyed that you said was that it was actually a debate, and then they got down with him, and then another person who was a supporter of Beijing, and they both took selfies, but only the selfie with the supporter of the Hong Kong guy's name as I forgot his name for some reason.
But he didn't participate in the debate, but he attended the debate.
Attended it, and then they asked him apparently to take a selfie with them, and then the two of them took a selfie, but only the one with the anti-Chinese basically got released when he came back to Thailand. And I think that's one of the things that when I heard, I was like, man, you know, somebody needs to write a news article or a book article entitled "The Wrong Selfie at the Right Time." Political guide to social media in the early 21st century.
It's also
When does a selfie take down a government? Like, let's do this.
But it is a different situation because it was an English, colony, or being for so many years, and then, they have independence, and it will become a Chinese province in was it 2050 or something?
Back was 1997, and it's a 50-year agreement.
50-year agreement. So that's kind of interesting. That I don't think that there's many situations in the world where
that's incredibly unique. Where there was where a peaceful exchange of power written out among two heavyweights, among two UN veto powers, that to have this sort of peaceful transfer.
But then the people are stuck in the middle of this. So
right. And it's only very recently that it's become less peaceful.
They've known one way of living, and then they know very well that it's going to be another way of living is what's going to be their future, and they're right in the middle of that now, which is, which even outside of the violence and inside the protests and things like that, the peaceful protesting, there's like millions of people on the streets. So if you look at you would know this, when you set up a camera and it like time lapsing. If you look at a time lapse thing, and there's like millions of people like on these marches, and it's only like a small amount of people that would get into the violent side of it, where realistically the majority of the people are there out on the streets as peaceful protesters marching because they want to know what their future is.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing actually that was brought up in that speech as well, that I found to be, an interesting debate, right, between what is, when people say protest, there's a line, right, where, you can say you are expressing a right to peaceful assembly, which is a right guaranteed by most democratic constitutions. But when does it become, when does it cross the line and become something that is a threat to, let's say, security, or to just be even deemed as a nuisance to people who view differently, right? So I don't know. I think in Hong Kong it's really hard to tell. It's constantly shifting line between that and that. Right? I mean, sure, people who go to the length say, okay, I have a political purpose that I want to achieve, but then definitely some groups of people cross the line for not being a right to assembly. right? So this is a very interesting line that this type of demonstration is always challenging.
Right, and it feeds into their what was it? The 5 demands that kind of a law of journalism is that if it bleeds, it leads. So if there's broken glass, if there's something, if there's a conflict anywhere, the journalist's job is to be there and to not just tell the story, but now to not just like take a photo, but have the live streaming video of it.
Yeah.
So when that comes to a major aspect of these Hong Kong protests of police brutality, that where these videos are clipped, like context can be either like strengthened or manufactured from thin air.
Yeah.
That who threw the first punch, who did this and who did that. That there isn't an all-knowing arbiter.
Yeah, for sure. It's these days people have all these when people talk about fake news. Yeah, I can always say you blame fake news for social media for fake news, but it was the same actually here when there were street protests. There were many people like photoshopping, many media things or conspiracy theories saying this and that happened, and a lot of the accounts don't link up. So I guess the only solution I see with this thing that people have to come up with that seems to work is having many more eyes on the street.
Right.
And then collating and all, trying to find how it happened.
And that's the nature of human experience, that even your own recollection and memory of things can be unreliable. And like the closest thing we can have to creating a bulletproof narrative is just having more people there.
Yeah.
Like the less differing opinion. Like,
well, even these days you've got like, what would you call it, world politicians that are use the whole fake news and use exactly that angle, which people that are running the world that are like doing that, including Australia's Prime Minister and the other US, Russia, all the above.
Right now.
UK,
and that's
all
really
the above.
convenient for the leaders, that it's the press that are lying and not them.
Yeah, so it's like it's like super interesting, just like that whole thing, but it's also scary at the same time.
I just came back from Burma a couple weeks ago, and for example, I read these really cool academic articles. I'm really reading academic articles, and for that, a lot of academics they kind of actually they grasp history, for example, right? I mean, many people are talking about the Rohingya, like the minority Muslims there, but they don't even know that there's actually a whole even the Buddhists who attack them, they're actually also against the government. So that there's even an uprising there against the Burmese government. They don't like
The military.
The military, yeah. So like that whole even angle is like gone from international media, and nobody even knows that. Well, it's not that they didn't even attack just the Muslims. They're attacking the government now. They have their own army set up, as do many other minority groups there, which don't almost never get any press coverage, but they get published in in books, especially published around from Chiang Mai and in the Silkworm Press. So yeah, this is the thing. It's the writing is there. That's what I appreciate about writing. The writing will get into conflicts and these stories and narratives that are important to people, but don't seem to be able to get people to read them. So that's why I want to explore more different types of art to get attention to something that I think is quite important, that I feel is close to my heart, and get exposure for it. And with international media, I don't know. I understand it's a tough time for journalists all over the world, so they can't. One of in the academic I read specifically about the trial in media is it costs so much money just to even have a reporter there, right? Who doesn't understand the global culture. Then the people who are in the local culture don't get paid they're like the fixers, the local fixers basically. They don't get credit, right? And then it almost becomes a cottage industry where like 3 different news organizations come and they bring them to the same place, interview the same people, and they get this almost like narrative built.
Yeah.
It's so that's why like international media is not necessarily the best thing to learn about a specific place from, because like for example, every time there's like a natural disaster here in Thailand, they can call you up like in like the other side of the country and go, "Are you okay?" It's like
not that part of Thailand. Big country.
I live on a mountain. I come from the mountains, like, "Are you okay?" It's like there's a giant thing that hit that country. And I'm like, yeah, on the beach. But we have a lot of beaches, by the way, but I'm on a mountain. We don't have a beach.
Yeah, and climate change is another big thing that is a lot of these leaders deny as well, which is like, and they just try to like push the narrative away. In Australia at the moment, there's just like bushfires everywhere, which like there's basically the country's burning.
California as well.
Yeah, well, it's like, and these leaders and the leader of the country is like, mate, there's nothing to see here, mate. Go and watch the cricket. Australia doing well, mate. They're beating Pakistan in the cricket, mate. You don't need to worry about what's going on out in your backyard.
Yeah.
Even though there's fires like coming and like, and there's nothing to see here.
I mean, at least in Thailand, we get free movie tickets,
No, in Australia, you just gotta like sit and watch a game of cricket or something, whatever the Prime Minister's into this week.
Footy.
Yeah, whatever he's into this week, which is like, super like arrogant and B, it's like just pushing the narrative away of what's really going on in the planet.
And also, it's the thing that we mentioned earlier when we were a bit off camera. Music, sold out music festival concert that was completely cancelled, and then like on the other side, the Australian police cannot stop.
So basically, there's a group that are like blown up, man. They're like called 1-4. They're like a bunch of Pacific Islander kids from out west in the western suburbs of Sydney. That sold out tour. It's like they think they got a tour and they've sold. It's sold out, and the police have just gone in and said to the venue owners and go, you can't have these kids playing gigs at your venues.
What was the reason? What was the reason they gave you? They gave for that?
Well, the reason that they give is that these kids are promoting violence, and because they got like video clips with riding motorbikes up the streets and throwing flares in the street. So, but if you watch a video clip that looks like a movie, like something let's just like. Some Kanye West video clip where there's someone lets a firework off.
Essentially, this could actually be Back to the Future,
So so these kids are doing music, and as you see, it was a way of getting out of out of the poverty, neighborhoods that they're in, and they're like and they got millions of fans all over the planet. That's the next thing is these kids are blown up so much that so they're selling out like tours, but then on the flip side of that, so the government and the authorities are like, we're going to shut these guys down and we're not going to let them play. But then a news report comes out on the weekend that there's a neo-Nazi concert. Some like Canadian band has come on tour, and also some Australian Nazi musicians, like bands, and they say, there's nothing that we can do about that. And they're allowed to play. And they're allowed to play.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to play. All right. And these guys, and even the group that came from Canada, I think that they're like on a terror list or something over in their own country. All right. But they're like white supremacy, like views or whatever, and they're like but regardless of what both of their music is about, it's like, wait a second, these Pacific Islander kids have been like basically had their tour wiped out. They're allowed to play in New Zealand. They're allowed to go across. They're allowed to fly over to New Zealand and do that show.
And in Australia, there's like a
But
specific connotation to, right? They call them bikie gangs, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like there are biker gangs in America. Like there's Hell's Angels and stuff, but it's not like there's a blanket ban on Harley Davidsons.
Yeah, so you know, I mean, so it's just wrong that these kids can't get out there. You know, and them trying to earn, trying to like make a career in music.
Yeah.
As young kids that are,
How old is that group?
Yeah, so they're called 1-4, and they were formed in 2014, which is still 5 years ago now. But it's like they've only like come to prominence doing the music stuff in the last.
It's like a soccer club,
in like
named after their year
in the
of
last
origin.
year or so. So they've started like blowing up in the way of like people all around the world are like, wow, where does this music come from? You know what I mean? So then, but then that whole like thing of one thing for one, one set of rules for the other people, which is like, which probably isn't like that far removed from anywhere else on the planet.
Agreed. I think it's everywhere. There's always a double standard, but it's odd to think that there's some specifically dangerous element, let's say, that a certain group represents. Because like I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what they have to say in these, like, let's say, white supremacist concerts. I've never been to one, so I want to figure out.
I can't say I've been to one before, but
I've never been to one before, so I want to sit there and see what's going on. Not that I agree with the politics, but like, is it good art?
Who knows?
Who knows, right?
It's a funny sort of aspect to that, because there was also like there was a time when David Bowie was oddly interested in that sort of like fascist imagery, and like he later explained it away as well. It was the 70s, 80s, and I was doing coke, and I later did an album about like Ashes to Ashes. Like, this is me coming off of that and like my rehab process. But there's an aspect to it of it could be like texturally interesting, but I mean, there's the reason that the stated reason that the cops closed the 1-4 concert, is that it's
the whole tour.
Is that the art becomes dangerous, that it spreads a violence. But there's clearly not a.
Well, they did do one show. They did do one or two shows, and there was no trouble. There was no. People came, they watched the show, they enjoyed themselves, and went home.
Yeah. There isn't a consistent application of this at all.
So yeah, but even with that, writing wise, there's a fellow a friend of mine, who is he's a bit of a uni lecturer, etc. There's a few people that don't like that guy either, but he he connected with a guy that was a refugee that was sent to, like, so Australia's got this awful refugee policy where they've got this closed border thing, and no one can get past the border, and they've got like, and anyone that tries to come into the country goes to one of these islands like Manus Island or Nauru, or these islands that are in the middle of the Pacific. And they just like stay there for like decades.
Wow. Yeah.
And one of these guys that was there was actually from Iran. He was actually I think he's Kurd from
northern
Kurd from
Syria,
Syria
border,
Syria,
Turkey,
yeah.
Iraq.
And he was a writer, like a professional writer. And what he did was he got a phone, started text messaging
by SMS.
He started SMSing my friend Omid, and wrote a book.
Whoa!
And then this book, hey, I've got it. I'm proud to say I've got it. Like I've got it like at home in my room. Like, takes pride of place. Is he wrote a book, and that book has won so many like literary awards in Australia as well as like around the world, and you know what I mean. And still and he just got out of Manus Island like a week ago, and he's not allowed in Australia. So he went to New Zealand, and I think America like said we'd love to take you as someone that could be a fantastic journalist and a literary like champion in our country.
Yeah.
So it just shows you, and Australia just lost, what would you call it, like a pretty awesome human being. It's very talented.
Their immigration policy was a detriment to the state.
Yeah, they're very talented human being that could have been like part of it. And at one, like big money, like he's winning like $10,000 awards, like so he's getting money. I mean, he's winning these awards, and he's like getting like thing, but he's not allowed to like enter the country.
Yeah,
I think of that as well when it comes to America's immigration policy, but also as a sports fan, that some of the greatest players in basketball right now, I'm thinking specifically of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is a Nigerian, a refugee from Nigeria, born in Athens, born in Greece. The Greek freak.
That's what they call him.
That he's just amazing, brilliant. Like he, when he cuts into towards the hoop, he's not quite like Jordan, where Jordan will slam you into the back into the post and talk shit on you. That Giannis will like slide right past you. He's so big, but he's like amazingly graceful.
Yeah.
And
agile and great.
Right, and like the idea that you could have that this talent could have been lost to the world just based on a fickle coin flipper of a denial on a rubber stamp.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
and that player
and there's people all over the world that are like in that situation.
Right.
You know, and it's just like
that Enes Kanter, like we were talking about Turkey and
yeah.
That Enes Kanter, one of the greatest, close to an all-star. He's not quite an all-star, but I just love the way he plays. He's one of the rare big men, one of the rare centers.
Whoa.
I'm going a little
we're on the
further
subject,
off.
mate. What's your thoughts on Ben Simmons, mate?
Ben Simmons, yeah, he's a singular player in that he's the point guard. The point guard traditionally in basketball is known for shooting. Like they bring the ball up and they pass it through.
He's known for stealing.
Right, yeah, that's how he gets a lot of his points. That he gets it on turnovers, but also that he from a distance, his position plays further away from the hoop, but he closes the distance so quick that he's an all-star, and he doesn't even need to have an outside shot. That he closes in on you faster than you can react, and how much of that is from his upbringing as an AFL player. That he would have been an all-star in the AFL.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's our
in Aussie rules, Australian football.
Yeah, exactly. So now that's what I mean, mate. Australian basketball is like starting to like become.
Oh, they were great. The World Cup was in China before before the NBA season started, and Spain just narrowly edged out Australia, an Australian team without Ben Simmons, and I was kind of surprised that Patty Mills and Andrew Bogut they're old guys. They're old guys.
No Dwayne Exum either. So yeah. So that's very interesting. The future of Australian basketball, and I think we just like snared the 76ers coach as our new coach. That's gonna be
that'll
like
be
interesting.
great to see. That now Ben Simmons, the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics.
That'll be all happening next year. I'll be half watching the basketball, half watching the breaking.
And that's the big thing for Americans. American basketball players aren't as enthused about the FIBA World Cup, but they'll all come out for the Olympics. They all want a gold medal. and
Yeah,
it'll be great to see the Spanish team with not Pau Gasol but Marc Gasol, the younger Gasol.
Yeah.
And how if the Spanish team can defend their title, but the idea, I'm curious to see like how many of these basketball Olympians who they'll meet at the Tokyo Olympics with the breakers.
Oh yeah,
Winding this all back around.
Okay. Yeah,
Because that's how it's always.
could be
A lot
super
of people like end up meeting their spouses at the Olympic Village.
interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, that sort of thing does go on. Indeed.
Interesting point with the immigration though. I just give it a little bit of devil's advocate. I don't personally believe this, but we see some of these stories, right, with people who make it through adversity, through the odds, and they become, famous, and they're like now the torchbearer for this cause, right? And some people might argue that it's like society's way of shutting down even attention, that you acknowledge one or two people, right? You let them have the laurels, and then like now it's like now it's almost like
And it's a release valve that
It's a release
they
valve,
become that they become tokenized.
Yeah, exactly. They become tokenized. They become like, this is the symbol that we're doing something, but then overall things don't change.
It's
Yeah.
wallpaper over.
Yeah, wallpaper. That's a way to put it.
Yeah,
Wallpaper.
perfectly. It's wallpaper. So, like, I mean, what do you think about that issue? I think that there's some legitimacy to this, because there's many people who become big, but
there's millions of people that are still in refugee camps. And,
outside looking in.
yeah, outside looking in, just waiting for their hoping and praying that that they're gonna even get looked at.
yeah. So I mean, you think that there's some truth to this, or like, what do you think is the what extent, I would say? I was thinking, when I think the black and white, but to what
I'm
extent?
very excited about people like Akon,
Yeah.
who who are proactive. These people are making, especially once they become like these huge stars, they're making like millions and millions of dollars. But what are you doing with that millions of dollars? Are you
Right.
buying like 12 houses and 30 Lamborghinis, and etc., etc., or are you like going back to your roots and building villages and like giving electricity to 12 nations across Africa?
Wow.
And building grids of and like thing, which is what Akon is doing. So someone like that guy, man, I got like mad respect for, because he's like, they say like put your money where your mouth is, but it's not even. It's
He's
like
walking
it's the next level. It's
Yeah.
not even put your money where your mouth is. It's like the whole next level. It's like, man, how can
Actions.
I like better a continent?
Exactly, right? Like I find that I wish there's more of those people, because the more I read it, like I don't find them.
Exactly. And if there's more, and if there was more of those people doing that sort of thing, this will probably be a much better place for it.
Right? I mean, like it wouldn't be interesting. Let's say we had like you accept this like literary prize for like $10,000. Sure, you can go do it at residency and living and stuff, but give back to the people that that you wrote the story about, because essentially a lot of these social commentary or like big successes, like okay, you got the literary prize for being a great artist, but you know what, at the same time, the characters that you wrote about, this community, the social milieu that kid comes from, is actually, I think, its own character and deserves to have something to do with the prize, in my opinion. Because it gets that. It's a subject, like it's like a. Because if you don't, I feel like you get the other end of the spectrum, where many people accuse journalists, and they kind of go there, they take the story.
Voyeurs, being voyeurs.
Exactly. They're voyeurs. They take the story, and then like next news cycle they're gone. Right? Essentially.
It's a job. Well, it's just employment
It
for
is
them.
their job, but that's the
And it
problem,
sort of
right?
ties into
Yeah.
like a system of ethics that journalists practice. That the idea of gonzo journalism, of being part of the story, is completely antithetical to not just their job, but how like their how they live their lives and their moral compass. That it's not that for a lot of these journalists. So some journalists, I know a few journalists that this is my job. This is how I get my drinks. But also, the other end of it is that this is my calling. My calling is to be a third party.
Sure. I mean, this is like, I understand that there's like lots of ethics and
Right.
things to it. Like I think about it and read about these issues too. But it's in the overall scheme of things, right? Like, sure, you're doing your job and there's an ethical rule why this should be that way. But in the scheme of that, we're reviewing for media organizations that make money from viewers, and then the viewers, all that end up looking like is that you're crying crocodile tears, for these people, and then you win a.
And you're profiting off of others' pain.
Yeah, you're profiting off other people's pain. It becomes like, some people joke, oh, why do you want to go to this poor city? Oh, take pictures of poor people? Like, what is there to see in certain, like, hugely densely populated cities or slums, Why you go and take a picture there? It's not like it's a mountain. It's like, essentially you go take a picture of people suffering to get something, right? You get something out of people who already don't have anything, right? I feel like maybe there should be an interesting ethical rule where if you're going to do something, that you need to give a certain portion of that back. It does feel somewhat exploitative. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we can debate this on certain like technical rules and everything, but in my opinion, it just feels exploitative without a mechanism, let's say, to force people to give back. But if somebody was like you mentioned, Akon, right? Akon, right? Yeah, it's great. He's proactive about it, and it makes it even better. But then most people don't do that.
Yeah, most people are just more like, oh, what can I?
Yeah. How am I going to benefit off these
There's not a
pictures?
we. It's
Or,
like
story.
there's no we. It's I,
Mm.
which is sad. But that's how people unfortunately are conditioned to think.
Yeah.
As well. They think not in the we category. They think in the I category. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna earn this. Which you need to do, which society dictates that you need to.
You don't necessarily want to be
to-
codependent, but
So
And also there's this like fear of like being like misrepresenting people. I feel is like it's just political correctness, so that like when I get stories, right, I rarely get like interesting stories about like it's almost like a duopoly here, where I read a story, somebody coming on a story, and when it's about like people suffering or hardship, it's almost like that it's overemphasized in the grand scheme of story. Whereas I feel the really good books that talk about whether it's poverty or a hard issue tries to balance out everything and give us so many perspective about what this is. And that's what makes it. That's the little hope that I have for the literary genre, or like the writing genre, the writing art itself, is that the really good ones give us like a multi-dimensional perspective.
the total experience.
Total experience.
total experience.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Rather than that journalistic snapshot that seems somewhat exploitative.
Yeah, true. All right.
I think that's a really nice way to end it. Is there actually, Mark, where can people find you?
Guess what? For years, people were saying your social media is shit. So you're hopeless at it, which is probably correct. But yeah,
Well,
when
you have hype man behind this while you're going.
finally, I'm finally on Instagram and like getting onto this stuff. You can get me on the Facebook thing. So Munk Ross, MUNK. Also Monkey Mark, which is MUNKIMUK. That's my Instagram. And I'm not on any of the Twitter. I'm only just getting my head around this stuff. Rather than like thing. But yeah, you can get me that. Or other than that, I'll see you out and about. Catch you when I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Thanks Sal for joining us. Thanks Mark.
No worries, thank you. Cock on carb.
Yeah.